got one that can see.
Logic before authority.
Hi guys, this is Daniel Alexander Cannon here on Logic Before Authority. And yeah, we're continuing down the activation rabbit hole. You know, we started out having an understanding of a few things they did with us in around 2019, 2020 when the planned demonic took place. And they come out with this slogan, or this logo and slogan, Operation Warp Speed, which ties to Star Trek. Y'all guys that have been listening already know this. This is just for new people and kind of a refresher. Believe it or not, we actually have a few new ones. Now, we know they stuck something up our nose, and they stuck something in the arms, free needles. And we're looking at the different methods in which they likely put some things into our bodies, and we're trying to understand it. Because we know one of them was they put things into our sinuses, and they rubbed it on the olfactory, the bottom of the ethmoid bone, and rubbed it on the nerves that are coming out of the olfactory bulb. And they have nanotechnology that is small enough that it can be uptaken into the nerve membrane itself and delivered directly into the brain. Okay. And so the theory is that because they talk about, Star Trek talks about assimilating the humans. Okay. And why they chose to put it into these movies like this and sci-fi the way they did, I don't know. But I do know this. They did it. And so it's up to us to be able to see what they were showing us or not. So we're going to look a little further. Now what we did was as you can see, I've created some images and stuff. And one day, I created this image. And I called it Activation Day. Because I theorized that there was going to come a day in the very near future, there's going to be an emission of a signal or a pulse, likely a pulsing signal, that's going to come out, and it's going to, for the people who unfortunately took the needles and took the thing up the nose. Of course, if they took the needle, they highly likely took the thing up the nose. Now, I'm going to say this again. I am no judge. You got to take this to Father if you did these things. You've got to get on your knees and pray to be washed clean. But we still need to understand these things. So, here we are. So, activation frequency. Now, it's the interesting thing that happens with these images when I create them, because I use AI to create them. AI, just like anything, could be used for good or evil. It's just like the cell phone that you have in your hand right now. It's just like whatever device you're watching this video on right now. It's just like everything in creation can be used for good or evil. We're trying to use it for good. So a strange thing that happens, though, sometimes when I create these images, is it puts in additional information that you're not expecting. Like it put in here, because I theorized CubeSats, because CubeSats was what Operation Warp Speed, one of their things that they did was they used cubes. Okay, which they called the Borg, and they also used what's called CubeSats, which were smaller cube-shaped satellites. And it just so happens that Elon Musk, Starlink, happens to be using the same thing. And there's a lot of the same language, and I've found some more that I'm going to show you today. So this frequency just happened to be printed on here, 24.867 gigahertz. So I was like, what would be the chances if that was the frequency that was related? Because I'm no cellular or frequency expert. However, I am a very good researcher, and I'm led by the Holy Spirit in a lot of cases. But I don't know how it just works out sometimes where there's something right in an image that I create that tells something. Well, this 24.867 gigahertz happens to be, if you just look at the 24 gigahertz realm, including the 24.867 gigahertz, it's used for, it's a millimeter wave 5G gigahertz. Okay, that's what they call it. And it is used for the EAS broadcasting system. That's one of the frequencies that they use for the emergency broadcasting system, which I know I have on here somewheres, I believe, because they just recently, and I'm sure I'll run across it here in a minute, but they just recently started installing new EA systems all around the world. And that is highly suspect, especially when we are looking down the rabbit hole through the looking glass kind of thing, and we're seeing what's going on. And then we just happen to go look up the EAS system, and it's being replaced all around the world. And I've had y'all guys in the comments confirm in various different places, and let's see, Australia, France, Finland, and a couple of other places where y'all guys left comments saying, yep, they're doing it here too. And if you just Google new EAS system worldwide, or just new EAS system, you're going to see it instantly. I've shown it in my previous videos. So we dove down the rabbit hole of trying to understand these frequencies and what all is going on here, because they've got a plan. Now here's another image that I created, okay, about the Borg activation signal, okay, and I happened to notice, I missed it before, but notice over here it says subspace transmission, because subspace transmission is one of the things that the Borg would have to do in order to be able to communicate with all of the drones, okay? And it just happened to throw in here another frequency, 873.4 terahertz. Yeah, terahertz. And it says adaptive hive sync, Borg encoding, purpose, command, control, and activation. Now, what would be the chances that if I were to do what I did with this frequency and look it up and see if this is tied to what we're doing in some way? Well, here's the thing. Remember 873, or the 800 realm of terahertz, okay? So 873.4 terahertz carrier frequency is the frequency that they use for the Starlink satellite system. What are the chances? It is absolutely one of the frequencies that they use with these lasers that communicate in between the satellites. At least that's the information I can find. Okay. And that's, I'm kind of speechless, I guess. That's just absolutely amazing. So, what are the chances that this thing just spits out the frequency, the subspace transmission frequency in terahertz, which I happened to miss over several videos. I didn't happen to catch it. And so when I finally seen it today, I said, oh, let's just look real quick. Bam, there it is. That Starlink is actually using this frequency, this terahertz frequency. It's for laser beam communication between the satellites. A lot of the satellites that they're putting up now, they have lasers on them, of course, likely more than one laser. But what it does is it helps tie all of these satellites up there together and allow them to communicate without having to communicate down to the Earth at the same time. And it creates a net, and a space net, a Skynet. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, that's what it is. Skynet. That's exactly what it is. You know, like from the Terminator, Skynet. Yeah, like that. Exactly. Let's see. Terminator Skynet. Of course. Yeah, remember this? Let me open it up real quick. Here it is. And look, it just happens to be in the pyramid thing. Neutral net-based artificial intelligence, so AI, Cyberdyne Systems Corporation. Yeah. So that's what we're looking at. The Skynet is, of course, what they're building. And it allows for the net that is above in the heavens, the lower heavens, of course, the very low heavens. And it's like a net of technology that is over us. And they're adding more satellites up there every week. Every week, they're adding more up there. And we all know that they're building all kinds of autonomous equipment, robots, drones, weapons, anything your wildest imagination can come up with. They're building it. And no, I don't like it at all. I don't even really like talking about it. But it is, unfortunately, what it is. So we got another frequency that matches up, saying and leading to the theory of my theory continues to produce fruit. Oh, here's the new EAS systems being installed worldwide, all the way around everywhere, or across, should I say. Television, radios, cell broadcast, mobile phones, wireless, alert sirens and public address, digital billboards, social media, Internet of Things and small systems, email, SMS, voice, apps, satellite, and two-way communications. And when I say everywhere, you can find it that it's going on everywhere. South Africa, this is just a small list. South Africa, India, Netherlands, Australia, France, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Germany, Canada. Yeah. And my suspicion is that there's going to come a day and they're going to emit pulses, and these pulses are going to deliver information into the human body, or a energy pulse and a signal, a command signal into the human body, which is going to cause some kind of you can look at it various different ways, but basically activating the assimilation, the whatever they put and we have an idea about some of it, but whatever they put into the human body is going to then be activated, and they are going to be online connected directly via Starlink and other technologies to Skynet. Yeah. And some of these people, this is kind of how I see it unfolding, and I hope I'm wrong. Some of these people, the systems will malfunction, and they will appear as they will just die immediately, or they're going to look like zombies wandering the streets. And they may, like in the movie Cell, they may have some connection with Skynet, with the Borg, basically. But they're not going to be fully functional. Then there will be the others that will be fully functional, and they will be like looking kind of act like people, but they won't be connected to the Most High anymore. Their silver cord is going to be severed, and they're going to be connected to the beast system, just like Revelations and other places in the Bible says how they're going to commit themselves completely to the beast system and do its bidding. And I'm not telling you these things as I normally try to say to scare you, okay? I'm educating you. You have a choice as to not to watch this information if you don't want to. You can go watch something ridiculous if you want. But you're here, and you're still here listening, so it's my duty to provide you what I can and just continue working on it and trying to understand it. Now, I took a look because I wanted to see where this technology, where they have gained it from, and how it all works. And I've got some really interesting stuff to talk to you about, especially this one. Cryptochrome genes in nature. Excuse me, I need some water. My voice is getting kind of bricky. Yeah, I need some water, but I don't have a pause button, so I got to keep going. Okay. Cryptochrome genes. We're going to come to that in just a minute, but I got to come back here first and show you this so you'll understand what I'm talking about when I get over there. Now, understand that in insects and birds that create sound in the 5G spectrum, okay? Cicadas. Males produce ultrasonic calls using timbal membranes. Species such as magic cicada, septim decim have dominant frequencies around 3.3 gigahertz. Now, we all know when we hear cicadas, right? But they're also producing a substantial frequency that's being broadcast that you cannot hear. It's in the 3 to 3.6 gigahertz from what I could find out. And then you've got crickets. They're also creating a sound and producing a frequency that you cannot hear as well, okay? The Moroccan locust, again, 3.3 to 3.7, okay? Tree hoppers, they are in the 3.1 to 3.4, and midge swarms, 24 to 40 gigahertz, the midge swarms. Swarms of male midges produce wing beat harmonics in the millimeter wave range, commonly 24, which ties kind of back to what we were talking about, to 40 gigahertz, and it's for a purpose supposedly of swarm communication. And again, that is exactly what they're using the 5G for, is swarm or Borg drone communication via the Skynet system that they're installing right above our heads, and people are too busy looking at the pretty lights that it makes in the noble gases as it's flying through. You know? You probably don't know what I'm talking about. Let's see. I know some of you do. You look at SpaceX launch at nighttime, and you see this kind of thing. Let's see, let me find you a good one here. Well, this is good enough. Hang on just a second. I know you're busy. So when you see this going on, and the ship is way over here, but all this cloud is still lit up, what's happening is there are noble gases at that altitude, and it's causing the noble gases to be excited, okay? And when noble gases get excited, they emit light. So obviously over time this wears off and it just goes back to nothing. But this is not glowing smoke. These are noble gases being excited, which is demonstration literally of one of the ways they're going to create a, what I've called a Operation Sky Eye, okay, where they're going to do holographics in the heavens above us to freak us out and make us think that aliens are here. That's part of their plan there with that. But it's related, but it's kind of a different, off on a different story. Let's get back to the midge swarms and how they're using the 24 to 40 gigahertz in order to communicate with the swarm. Very interesting, right? Now, if we come down here, we've got birds that produce sound in the 5G. I mean, they make it, but you can't hear it. European starling, okay? And they're in the 3.0 to 3.4. And what they do is they study all these sounds and all these different things, and then they turn it into a weapon. Instead of doing something great with it, they turn it into a weapon because that's what they are. That's who these people are. Part of them, a large part of them, are Edomites. That you got to go back about 10 videos to find those. But the Edomites, Esau is Edom. The house sparrow, okay, 3.2 to 3.6 is where they're kind of producing that. Common swift bird, 3.3, 3.8, doing it for communication. They're communicating and you can't even hear them, okay? You think, chirp, 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 how can that be? Are they saying just the same thing over and over? Nope, there's variations in each chirp that you can hear that they can discern, but you can't. Because if you take that chirp and slow it down, it'll sound like a whale bellow, or it'll sound like a dolphin, or it'll sound, you can find the sound of all types of other creatures inside the sounds of other types of creatures. We all actually speak basically the same language. We just do it at different frequencies and different, well, really just different frequencies. Also the peregrine falcon, okay? And again, producing sound in the millimeter wave as again, and the oil bird as well. And this one's in the 26 to 40 gigahertz range, and it's for navigation. And a lot of times it's in caves. Apparently they spend a lot of time in caves. Okay. Down here are all the sources where this information came from. And yeah. Let's now look at other types of animals and creatures that produce that produce these sounds. It's going on all around us and in different places. We just can't hear it. But they have studied it and perfected it to use it for evil. It's the knowledge of the tree of good and evil. Elephants, they use a 4 to 20 gigahertz sound as well for communication. Okay. And so they can communicate between other elephants. They'll make sounds that if you were out there recording, we've all heard an elephant go brr, 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 that kind of thing, or right? But they also have the ability to make other sounds that you can't even hear. They're talking to the other elephants around them, and you don't even know it. Isn't that amazing? Dolphins and porpoises do the same thing. They're between 10 and 150. Tenrecs, these little dudes here, between 4 and 30 gigahertz. Okay. And tree shoes, they're in the 10 to 40 gigahertz range, and it's for communication. And zebra mussels also use it. What they do is the shell snapping causes cavitation and acoustic emissions. So they talk by snapping their shell. You see, that's why I've always said you have to study nature in order to understand these weapons, because they can't create anything. All they can do is copy. So we have to find and figure out what are the things they're copying. Okay? That's why we're looking at this. Also, the squid, the tentacle or mantle movements create snaps and clicks, something you'd never hear because it's in the realm of gigahertz and our ears can't hear gigahertz. Crocodiles, frogs, geckos. So the crocs are making sounds and the frogs are making sounds that you can't hear. The snapping shrimp, cichlid fish, sea cucumbers, termite soldiers. They're eating your house. They're communicating, making sounds that you can't eat. You can't hear. And spiders. Now, of course, there's a volume issue too, but it don't matter how loud they were, you wouldn't be able to hear them. So you have all these creatures in nature that can communicate using 5G, millimeter wave sounds. Now, there's a lot of interesting things that they have learned, of course, and this is just going to be a little bit of it, of what they can do with this. Okay. And we're going to be getting into what's called cryptochrome as we're talking about this as well. But to start with, let's see if I can zoom this up a little bit. What studies report about 5G radio frequency exposure? Okay. I'm just going to kind of read through some of this. Some studies report effects on cells exposed to 5G electromagnetic fields. Okay. So if there's something around you broadcasted in millimeter waves, and you're exposed to those from minutes to hours, there's some things that it can start doing. One is that it produces increased reactive oxygen species. Basically means it can cause you, one of the effects can be shortness of breath. So if my brother Mike is out there, you might want to keep that in mind and try to have any kind of Wi-Fi or anything like that turned off. If you're having shortness of breath, start unplugging stuff. Don't forget it. Changes in calcium ion levels, altered cell membrane permeability. That means it can alter the protection of the cell's membrane to allow for something to enter it or to exit it. Okay. Effects on cell viability at high intensities. Okay, meaning it can start killing cells. Okay. And again, it says right here from minutes to hours, is what we're talking about. It can have that kind of effect that quickly. Changes in gene expression. This is a really important one. Changes in gene, DNA and genes in your body expression. 5G can be used to manipulate literally your DNA. And just imagine if you've got something on the inside of you that's there to take advantage of that. Like it says here, for instance, DNA repaired. Well, I got to kind of explain this, I guess. And let me see if I can zoom this up a little bit more. So y'all guys will be able to see it a little bit better. Okay, so here on the left, we have these three columns that's called the control. Right here is the low exposure area of being exposed to 5G frequencies, low exposure, and then high exposure. So this would be exposed for minutes, and this would be exposed for hours. Okay. And then over here on this legend, it says changes in expression, increase and decrease in changes in the expression, meaning how much effects, which we're going to list the effects over here in a second, it can have over minutes, going from low expression to hours, going to high expression. Control means simply there was no 5G. Okay. And when there's not being exposed to 5G at all, this is what it looks like. Then when you're exposed to low, you can see when it gets red going up over here, it is a higher value, and meaning that you're experiencing more DNA alteration. Okay. Your stress response is higher as well in the lower exposure and the high exposure. Okay. One little variation here is in the DNA alteration category right here, basically. It's kind of like a little anomaly in the far up right is where it's kind of like the opposite. It's getting worse and worse into the reds, but then also in that one anomaly, it goes in the opposite direction of the value. We also have cell cycle genes, meaning how long genes live or how quickly they die. Obviously, high exposure is in the orange category, which simply means that cells are dying quicker in your body. And apoptosis genes, okay? And you can look any of these up. Apoptosis genes, the control is all basically blue to a darker blue. And then in low exposure, it goes to a lower value. Same over here in the high exposure, with the exception of a very high exposure, meaning a very longer time for hours, like most of us are being exposed to already, hours in a daily basis, really. Oxidative stress genes, meaning where your body becomes under stress and starts reacting to it. There's changes there. So the whole point here is that there are a lot of changes going on, and 5G is causing it to happen, and it's all related to your genes, your DNA. So, and that's without you having taken a free needle or a jab up the nose, All right, so let's slide over to here. changes in EEG patterns, meaning the brain, okay? So what it's saying, basically, in short, is that when you're exposed to 5G, your alpha, beta, gamma, and theta are all affected and so your brain waves literally change when you're exposed to 5G. So they used human volunteers for short-term exposure, changes in power in specific EEG bands, alpha, beta, gamma, theta, brain connectivity, and event-related potentials in some studies. So literally altering your brain waves, which has more effects than I could probably explain to you. Now, cryptochrome, the role of cryptochrome, nature's EMF sensor. Okay. Cryptochrome, well, let's just read what we got here. I'll try to explain. Well, let me just read over here first. What is cryptochrome? Cryptochromes are light-sensitive proteins found in plants, animals, and humans. In some animals, cryptochrome acts as a magnetoreceptor, helping them detect Earth's magnetic field. Okay, so cryptochrome is something we all have in us. That's what they decided to name it. Cryptochrome, which made me think of cryptocurrency and a bunch of other things at the same time, but don't think we're going to go there in this one, although it's definitely related. So it's natural in humans, okay? So blue light. Now, what color were those laser beams we were talking about a while ago? Some of the high frequency laser beams that were being used to keep the board connected and the Skynet connected and all that kind of stuff. Oh yeah, that's right. They're in the blue. They're in the ultraviolet and blue range. Just coincidence, I'm sure. So blue light excites electrons in the Fad molecule. Okay. Electron pairs become entangled in a quantum state. Earth's magnetic field influences the electron spin states. This changes the chemical reaction outcome, producing a biological signal. What this is just an example. What it's basically saying is, when exposed to a 5G signal, your body's cryptochrome reacts and changes the biological signal between the synapses in your brain and in your body. And this is done via laser light. Yeah. "5G interacting cryptochrome. Some researchers suggest RF fields might influence cryptochrome or cellular redox, oxidation and reduction reactions," meaning things happening just like we've been talking about above. Okay. It can cause altered electron spin states, changes in redox balance, disruption of cellular signal, meaning it's invading and altering what your body naturally normally does. Okay. And the cryptochrome is part of the system that allows a bird to be able to see the magnetic fields around the world, right? And it's also the same thing that's in your body that they want to act like we kind of forgot. But the thing is I don't think we forgot. We might have forgot how to use it, but it's still there. Okay? All right. So there is a whole bunch of information for you. And you may have to watch this video more than once to understand it. And then you might have to go back 10 videos and start watching all over again, because this is a lot. It's a lot even for me. And I do this every day. Cryptochrome genes in nature and how animals sense Earth's natural frequencies. Cryptochromes are ancient, blue light sensitive proteins that help organisms relate circadian rhythms, and many species sense Earth's magnetic field. And what this is related to naturally is when the sun rises in the morning and the sky starts turning blue, your body will react to that blue light, and you're normally going to wake up, start getting energized, and do your day. That blue light. See, the blue light is related to the noble gases because sunlight and daylight, that blue sky, are two different things. Yes, the sun is what makes it happen, but the blue sky is actually a noble gas that is ionized and vibrating. So this is all tied, okay? Now, there are different type of cryptochrome genes. You have what's called Cry, is short for cryptochrome, Cry1, Cry2, Cry4, and Cry1A, Cry1B, and Drosophila Cry, Plant Cry1, Plant Cry2, and Cry Dash. Okay. And the Cry1 is supposedly has to do with circadian rhythm, meaning waking up, everything your body goes through in the daytime, and all of that. Cry4 is the one that they give credit for birds and a lot of other creatures to be able to see and interact with things in nature like the Earth's magnetic fields. Just do it naturally. It comes natural to them. But however, I believe that Cry4 is the one that we also have that they're just not admitting. Okay? Cry4 is highly likely. See, it says magnetoreception evidence. And when it comes to Cry4, it's very strong, as you can see here. A lot of reports, a lot of information out there about Cry4, which is the cryptochrome genes that are in your body. Okay, they are affected by magnetoreception, which has to do again with being able to, is tied to you sensing your direction, where you should go. This would be how, if they wanted people to gather up in one area or one spot, they would control it through this mechanism. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. All right, we could go into the plants and the algae and the bugs and all that, but I think I'm going to go ahead and come on down here. Some of this I'll just let you pause and read if you want to, but this is talking about the blue light, like the blue from the sun coming up in the morning, okay, activates the cryptochrome. The electrons in the protein form a radical pair, and then the Earth's magnetic field is sensed, and the spin states change the chemical reaction outcome. So then your nervous system starts, in normal situation, putting out certain signals and certain chemicals that cause your body to react a certain way. If you can modify this through using 5G, you can alter what the people are thinking, how they feel, their emotions, their drive, everything about them can be modified through this. And then, especially if you've gotten some equipment upgrades, you might say, in your body through the free needles and nose jabs. And it also says that when this blue light is on you, the cryptochrome undergoes a structural change, and the nervous system interprets the signal as directional information. Animals that use cryptochrome for magnetoreception, just a little quick list of some of the different kinds. There's more than that, a lot more. And cryptochrome in the human body, the high majority is the human head, okay? The human head, the brain itself, and the eyes, and also mainly the frontal lower area that is really where the majority of cryptochrome cells are at. It's right there around the ethmoid bone, the whole area we're talking about there. And also the eyes are related heavily as well. And a little bit related to like your heart and your main organs and stuff. And you can read that if you want to. Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead, go to our next slide. Now, most of us don't realize that radar, you know, your weather radar that's giving you your weather report and stuff, don't realize that it's operating in millimeter wave. And it's say, well, how's it detecting the weather 50 miles away? It's because they're putting in 1 megawatt of power. Okay. When you increase the power, the wattage, like to a 1 megawatt, you can increase the range, like up to 150 miles. So even your weather radar systems are suspect, of course, for being methods of control. Not just, they do way more than sense the weather that's going to rain in your neighborhood in 30 minutes. Also, 5G cell towers, of course, we suspected that one. You know, and they've got supposedly a range of 10 kilometers or something like that. And they go up to supposedly, I suspect that this is actually not true, 500 watts. I suspect they go higher than that. And then point-to-point microwave link is another thing that they use that's out there all around us. We don't see it quite as much, but it's out there. And they're just using like 10 watts, supposedly. Who knows, right? And the reason why I'm showing you this is to make you realize how many types of technology are used in the millimeter wave band. Because this is the 5G, the thing that they're using as one of the weapons that it's part of altering this cellular structure, gene expression, everything that's going on. I mean, it's obviously very complex, even to me, especially to me, if anything. So I think with that information, especially if you'll go back and watch it again, if you don't, I know it's a lot. You know, it's a lot to take in. It's a lot to understand. I'm going to be trying to do a very detailed, complete review of like the last 10 videos, which, you know, I'm going to try. Because I got to get my complete mind around all of this as well, because it's a lot. But I'm going to be trying to do that here very soon. But at the moment, though, what I want to do is I want to say thank you to Robin West. Oops, excuse me, Robin. Karen J. I have an anonymous person. You know who you are. 1674. Saba M. Chris Morgan. I'm sorry, guys. I am tired. There's nothing wrong with saying your last name. I just typically don't. Okay. Gerald K. I'd like to thank y'all guys for being sponsors of this particular information today. And hopefully y'all guys will A couple of you actually are, like Robin. She is already a producer, and so is Karen, and so is Chris. Chris M, already a producer, but a couple more of you guys become producers. You can do that simply by donating any amount each month towards my work, and I'll always mention you, and you'll be included in this.
I've got one that can see.
Logic before authority.